They buried her in the dry season, but her grave stayed wet. Every morning, water would rise from the soil like the ground itself was crying. And not just any water, this one had a taste. Salty. Like the sea. People whispered, but nobody said anything out loud. Not yet. Taka never told anyone where he met her. Not his mother. Not his best friend. He just returned one afternoon with a quiet woman walking beside him. She didn't talk much. Her eyes stayed low, her steps gentle. She wore blue always. Her skin was smooth like stone after rainfall, her voice soft like the rustle of leaves. And she smelled like rain mixed with sea breeze. Welcome back. As you enjoy the story, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and also share with your friends. Now back to the story. They called her Abeni. From the moment she stepped into Taka's life, the air changed. The compound grew quieter. The birds sang differently. Even the dogs barked less. Taka had been alone for a long time. 33 years old. No wife. No children. A hunter who spent more time with trees than people. Many had tried to match him with women from nearby villages. None stayed. Some said he was too quiet. Some said his eyes were too sharp. Others said they felt something strange around him. Cold almost. So when he returned during the Yam festival with a woman nobody knew, the village was shocked. She wasn't introduced through the elders. She wasn't brought with family. No bride price, no ceremony. Just Abeni in a small bag. Taka's mother protested. She shouted, asking where the girl came from, asking if Taka had lost his mind. But when Abeni touched her hand and said softly, "Good evening, Mama," the old woman froze. She stared at Abeni for a long time. Then she said, "It is well," and walked back inside without another word. That night, Taka couldn't sleep. He kept hearing whispers in the backyard. Faint like wind inside a bottle. He stepped out to check, but found only his old drum turned upside down. That drum hadn't been touched in years. He flipped it back and returned to bed. By morning it was upside down again. Abeni settled into the house like water into a clay pot. She didn't ask for anything. She swept the compound, washed clothes, cooked food, but never ate with salt. Anytime someone added salt, she would just smile and say, "I'm not hungry." She didn't wear earrings. Didn't touch mirrors. Didn't look people in the eye for long. But nobody could deny how peaceful the house felt. Taka, who used to go hunting for days without speaking to anyone, now smiled more. He even sang sometimes. Abeni would sit by the doorway and hum along, always in a low tone, like the sound of wind over water. But then strange things started happening. Taka's cousin Ire came visiting and tried to joke with Abeni, calling her fine fish from the river. That night, Ire slipped on dry sand, fell hard, and broke his ankle. A woman from across the street shouted at Abeni one day for picking flowers too close to her fence. That woman's baby fell sick the next day, crying tears that tasted like salt water until she passed out. Taka didn't ask questions. He told himself it was coincidence. He told himself village people always gossiped. He wanted to believe it. He needed to believe it. Then his mother died. It was a normal morning. She had boiled yam on the fire. She mumbled under her breath, calling Abeni lazy. Abeni didn't reply. She simply stood up and walked down to the river. By the time she returned, the yam had burned. Smoke filled the kitchen. And Taka's mother was lying on the floor. Eyes open. Foam at the corners of her mouth. Water dripping slowly from her ears. The doctor said it was a stroke. But her body didn't show signs of it. And when they buried her, her grave was wet. Not from rain. From something else. From something that tasted like the ocean. That night, Taka sat outside with Abeni and asked her quietly, "What are you?" She looked at him, tears filling her eyes, and said, "I'm your wife." Taka didn't sleep that night. In the morning, the village priest stood outside his gate. He wasn't smiling. He held a staff and a red calabash in one hand. And he said, "Taka, we need to talk. Now." Taka didn't open the gate immediately. He stood behind the curtain and watched the village priest standing there with a red calabash in his hand. The priest didn't knock or call out. He just waited. After a moment, Taka stepped out. "Good morning, sir." The priest nodded. "Is she here?" Taka hesitated. "Who?" The priest looked at him directly. "You know who." Taka glanced back at the house. "She's inside. I need to speak to you. Alone." Taka led him to the backyard, near the old kola tree. The priest didn't sit. He held the calabash firmly. "That woman you brought home, she's not ordinary." Taka kept his voice calm. "I know she's different." The priest shook his head. "You don't understand. 2 nights ago, I dreamt of salt water rising from the ground and flooding this village. I saw faces in the water, your face, your mother's and hers. When I woke up, my lips were wet but my throat was dry. That only happens when a spirit is nearby. Taka didn't say anything. The priest continued. She doesn't eat salt, does she? No. She avoids mirrors? Yes. And the night your mother died, what did you see? Taka spoke slowly. She was lying on the floor. Eyes open. Foam on her lips. Water dripping from her ears. The priest stepped closer. Long ago, before our fathers settled here, there was a girl who drowned in the river. They say she was pregnant. The man who promised her marriage betrayed her. Since then, her spirit has waited by the water, searching for broken-hearted men. She offers them peace, fills their homes with calm, but she always takes something in return. Something that matters. Taka clenched his fists. So what do I do? You must return her to the water. I can't. Why? Because I love her. The priest looked him in the eye. Then be ready to lose more. He handed Taka the calabash. Open this near her. If she is what I fear, the contents will change. Do not let her touch it. Just open it near her. It contains river sand, cow's blood, and bitter leaves. No spirit can stand it. Taka took it. His hands were trembling slightly. As the priest turned to leave, he paused and said, If she ever smiles while you're in pain, run. That night, Abeni was humming softly as she washed clothes by the fire. Taka sat on the bench watching her, the calabash hidden in his wrapper. His chest felt tight. She looked at him and said, You haven't eaten. I'm not hungry. You're thinking too much. Do you miss your home? She paused. This is my home now. Where were you before? She looked at him gently. Nowhere I can return to. Taka slowly reached into his wrapper. What's that? She asked. Something from the priest. Is it a gift? No. It's a test. He opened the lid. The sand inside was gray. But after a moment it started turning black. The water in her washing bowl began to bubble. Abeni stood up slowly. Her smile faded. Taka stood too. You knew, she whispered. He didn't answer. And you still love me? I had to know the truth. Her feet were wet. The floor beneath her was soaked, though no water had spilled. Her voice changed, deeper, slower. I didn't come to hurt you, Taka. I came because you cried. I never called you. You did. In the forest. I heard you. You sat by the river and wept. I followed your pain. Taka's eyes widened. He remembered. It was true. Months ago, when his last fiancée left him, he had cried by the river. Alone. Abeni stepped forward. I only wanted peace. Just for a while. My mother died. I didn't touch her. She cursed me. The water took her. Why didn't you tell me who you were? Would you have believed me? He didn't respond. She looked sad. So now you'll send me away? Taka stared at her. Do you still love me? Her voice was barely a whisper. He looked at her face, the sorrow in her eyes, the sadness he recognized in himself. He nodded. She gave a weak smile, filled with pain. She turned, walked into the backyard and disappeared into the dark. When Taka followed, she was gone. Only her wrapper remained, folded beside the old drum, now turned upside down once again. Taka didn't speak to anyone for 3 days. He stayed indoors, didn't eat much, barely slept. At night he sat by the window, staring at the empty spot where Abeni used to sit. Sometimes he still heard her humming, faint and low, like a sound buried under his heartbeat. Her wrapper was still folded beside the drum. He hadn't touched it. He couldn't. People in the village noticed. Some said she ran away. Some believed she was never real. Others whispered that she returned to the river. Taka said nothing. He walked with his head down and eyes dull, like a man carrying something only he could feel. But things didn't go back to normal. The river near the village began to dry, even though rain still fell. The birds stopped flying over the compound. Dogs barked at night and refused to go near the back of Taka's house. His farm changed too. The soil turned soft and heavy. The crops that once sprouted began to rot before their time. And then people started dying. First, it was the old man who once laughed at Abeni. He slipped in his bath and cracked his head. Then the woman who had once shouted at her. She drowned in a shallow puddle behind her hut. After that, a small child. She just stopped breathing in her sleep. Her mother found salt crystals on her pillow. In less than a month, 5 people were gone. All of them had insulted or mocked Abeni while she was alive. The village grew quiet. The air changed. People avoided Taka. They crossed the road when he passed. He didn't blame them. One evening, the village priest returned. This time he didn't carry anything. He stood outside the gate and said, "You let her go, but she's not finished." Taka didn't argue. She didn't hurt anyone. They hurt her first. The priest looked tired. "She may have left your house, but her spirit remains. These deaths are not accidents. They are echoes." "What should I do?" Taka asked. "You must return what belongs to her. She didn't leave anything." "Think," the priest said. "Spirits don't walk away without leaving part of themselves behind. If she loved you, then something of her is still with you. That part must be returned." That night, Taka sat with the wrapper beside him. He watched it like it might move. At dawn he took it and went to the river, the same one where he met her. He laid the wrapper gently on a flat rock and waited. Hours passed. The sun rose and fell. He waited. Just when he stood to leave, he saw her. Not walking. Not floating. Just there. Standing quietly on the water. She looked the same. Hair down, eyes calm, dressed in blue. She didn't smile. "You kept it," she said. "I didn't know what to do," he replied. "Why bring it now?" "People are dying," he said. "They cursed me," she answered. "I did nothing to them." "Is this revenge?" "No. It's memory. Some things don't forget even when we want them to." Taka stepped closer. "Then stay. I'll protect you." She shook her head. "You were peace to me. But peace doesn't survive where people fear what they don't understand." "You still love me?" he asked. "Yes," she said softly. "Then stay." "I can't." "Why?" "Because I'm not meant to. I came from sorrow. You gave me rest. But I cannot build a life on borrowed time." She stepped closer. "Do you still love me?" "Yes," he said. "Then let me go." His throat tightened. His chest burned. But he placed the wrapper in the river. She reached for it. The fabric melted like salt. And she was gone. No splash. No wind. Just silence. The next morning it rained gently. The river filled. The birds returned. The earth hardened again. The death stopped. Taka never saw her again. But some nights, when the wind passed through the trees just right, he could hear that same soft humming. And he would close his eyes and sit quietly, alone under the kola tree, listening. Months passed. The village was calm again. The rain returned, the river flowed, and no one else died. People started greeting Taka again, but he was not the same. He laughed less, spoke less, hunted no more. He spent most evenings by the riverbank, sitting in silence, staring at the water. Some said he was cursed, others said he was healing, but Taka didn't care. He wasn't waiting for anything. He just listened. One morning, some boys clearing land for new farming plots found a small calabash wrapped in cloth, buried under the soil. Inside it were dried fish bones and smooth white stones. Pa Rafiu, the oldest man among them, called it a spirit bundle, a sign of a broken promise made to a water being. That same night, frogs croaked loudly, the river overflowed by a few inches, and a baby was born without a cry. Taka heard the news. He got up quietly and walked to the abandoned shrine near the forest edge, the one his grandfather said was built for those who understood the water. Inside, he wiped the dust from a flat stone and placed one kola nut on it. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Tell me what to do." The next day he went to the priest and said, "I need to know her real name." The priest stared at him. "Whose name?" "Abeni's real name. She never told me." The priest shook his head. "There's a woman in Anile village. They say she speaks to the river. If anyone knows, it's her." Taka left that same afternoon. The road to Anile was long and narrow. He walked through thick bush and small paths. By sunset he reached her hut. She was old, one eye blind, chewing bitter cola on a mat. She didn't ask who he was. She just said, "You've seen her." He nodded. "I want to help her rest. I need to know who she truly is." She picked up a black stone. She was once a girl with a future. She loved a man who promised her marriage. He left. Her belly grew. Shame followed. She walked into the river and gave her sorrow to the water. Since then she answers only to sorrow. That's why she heard you. How do I help her rest? Call her true name at the place she died. If she forgives you, she'll return once more. But only for goodbye. And if she doesn't? Then she will never stop watching. Taka thanked her and left. At dawn he went back to the same river rock. He dropped 3 cowries into the water, held a white cloth in both hands and spoke. "I called you Abeni, but I never knew your real name. You gave me peace when I had nothing. You asked for love and I gave it, but I never asked what it cost you. I let you carry the silence. I'm sorry. If there's a name you want me to know, show me." The wind picked up, the river stirred, then slowed. A small fish leapt and landed beside his foot. On its side, etched like a scar, was a name. Adizwa. Taka whispered it. Adizwa. The river rippled. Then her face appeared. Not floating, not glowing, just still water taking her shape. She didn't smile, didn't speak. A single tear rolled from her left eye and dropped into the water. Then she faded. Taka stayed there long after she vanished, repeating her name like a prayer. Adizwa. 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 From that day forward, he never forgot it, and he never again called the river just a river. After that day, Taka changed again. Not like before when he was silent out of grief. This was different. He was quiet but not broken. Calm but not lost. He no longer sat at the river in sorrow. He sat in remembrance. Every evening he would walk to the same rock, place 3 cowries on it, and whisper her name once, just once, Adizwa. And then he would sit in silence for a few minutes, as if listening to something no one else could hear. The villagers noticed. They stopped fearing him. Some began to greet him warmly again. The children even played near his compound. But they never entered. The adults said he was safe now but different. Like a man who had seen too much to speak carelessly again. One night, while returning from the market, Taka heard a cry in the bush near the river bend. Baby. He paused. Listen. It came again. Faint, weak, almost drowning in the wind. He ran toward the sound, pushed through tall grass, and found something he could never forget. A newborn wrapped in palm leaves, lying in a pool of shallow water. No mother. No prince. No trace. Just the baby and the sound of the water moving in slow circles around it. Taka picked up the child, wrapped it in his cloth, and looked up. The moon was full. The sky clear. He whispered, Adizwa, is this yours? There was no answer. Just the gentle sound of water moving away. He brought the baby home. Fed it with pap. Kept it warm. Told no one. He named her Ao. From that day on, Ao became his daughter. She grew fast, faster than most children. By her 2nd year she was speaking full sentences. By her 3rd she was reading village signs. But she never cried. Not even as a baby. Not once. She laughed, smiled, and played. But never a single tear, not even when she fell or got sick. One evening, while plaiting her hair, he asked, Why don't you cry even when you're hurt? She looked at him and said, Because I'm full already. Full of what? He asked. She placed her hand on his chest. You. He didn't ask again. Ao was different. She loved water. She would sit by the stream for hours, whispering softly like she was speaking to something inside it. She could hold her breath longer than other children. She never got wet when it rained. Her clothes would be damp, but her skin stayed dry. The villagers began to notice. They whispered again, not in fear but in wonder. Some said she was blessed. Others said she was a second chance. Taka never explained. He simply raised her with patience. He taught her farming, fishing, storytelling. But he never took her hunting. One night Ao asked, Where's my mother? He looked up from the fire, took a deep breath and said, She's in the river. Is she a fish? No. Is she dead? No. Then why don't we go visit her? Because she only appears to those she chooses. And she's chosen to watch from far. Ao nodded. She knows I'm here? She brought you. That night, Ao walked to the river alone and stood silently for a long time. Taka watched from behind a tree, heart pounding, ready to run if anything moved. But nothing happened. The river stayed still. The wind didn't rise. And after a few minutes, Ao turned and walked home barefoot, smiling like someone who had heard a story no one else was allowed to know. As the years passed, Ao became stronger, wiser, sharper. She would touch the river and say, She's calm today, or She's angry today, and the weather would match her words exactly. Taka never questioned it. He simply listened. He never stopped going to the rock. He never stopped saying the name. Adizwa. Even as his beard turned gray, even as his back bent slightly with time, he kept the same routine. 3 cowries, 1 name, and silence. And each time he felt peace. He had lost something, yes, but the water had returned something too. Something different. Not a replacement. A continuation. Ao wasn't a memory of Adizwa. She was the echo of her mercy. The part she left behind that could grow in the world that once rejected her. Taka no longer feared the river. He respected it. He loved it. Because it had once taken from him, but in the end, it gave him something no one else could. It gave him a reason to stay. The day Taka fell sick, it didn't rain. The sky was bright, the wind gentle, but the river didn't move. It sat still like a mirror, silent, watching. Ao sat beside him on the mat outside their home. He had grown thinner, his skin pale, his voice faint. But his eyes were clear. He looked at her and smiled. Do you still hear her? Ao nodded. Every time I sleep. What does she say? That you loved her well. And that I must not forget. He touched her cheek. You are the bridge between two worlds, Ao. You are the reason my sorrow didn't kill me. She leaned closer. Don't go. I have to. But I'm not going far. That night he didn't eat. He didn't drink. He just lay down, closed his eyes and whispered one final time, Adizwa. By morning he was gone. They buried him near the river just by the rock where he used to sit. No priest came. No long ceremony. Just Ao and a few villagers who stood in silence, unsure of what to say. She didn't cry. She stood still, her hands folded, eyes on the water. After everyone left, she remained. She placed 3 cowries on the flat rock and whispered, He's with you now. The river moved. Just a little. A breeze passed through the trees. A single white feather floated down and landed on the water's surface. Ao watched it drift. That night she stayed by the river alone. She didn't sleep. She didn't speak. At dawn she walked into the water. Not far. Just to her knees. She closed her eyes and whispered a song, one only she and the water knew. When she opened her eyes, the water glowed faintly. A figure stood just ahead, half in the river, half in the mist. A woman dressed in blue. Hair down. Face soft. Come. Ao whispered, Mama. The figure smiled. You've grown. Ao stepped forward. He's with you now. The woman nodded. And he is resting. What do I do now? Ao asked. You live. You carry both our names. You protect this river and you remember. I will, she said. And when I forget? Then the water will remind you. The woman faded just like before. The water stilled. Ao stood there for a moment, eyes open, not blinking, not moving. Then she stepped out, slowly, calmly. She didn't look back. She didn't need to. She knew the river would always be there. Years passed. The world around changed. New buildings. New roads. But the river remained. People still came to it to fetch water, to wash clothes, to play. But no one disrespected it. They had learned. Whenever a child asked about the rock with the cowries, they were told about the man who loved a water goddess. About the woman who came from sorrow but gave peace. And about their daughter, who spoke to the water like it was her blood. Ao became a healer. People came from far to sit by her hut and tell their troubles. She didn't use herbs. She just listened. Sometimes she gave advice. Other times she sent them to sit by the river. And somehow they always left lighter. No one ever saw the woman in blue again. But they felt her. In the quiet wind. In the still water. In the moments of deep peace that made no sense but felt like home. The story of Taka and Adizwa was no longer a warning. It became a lesson. That sometimes, love is not about holding on, but about letting go gently. That some wounds become bridges. And that even in sorrow, something beautiful can rise if you give it room to breathe. At the river's edge, where the rock still sat and the cowrie still appeared, Ao would sometimes sit, close her eyes and hum. The same tune her mother once hummed. The same one her father once heard under the trees. A soft, low, endless melody. The kind that made the water remember. Thanks for watching. Please like, share, subscribe and turn on your notification for more. See you soon.